Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Kara here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of October 31st, 2024. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
If the doorbell rings, it's because it's Halloween and there are kids who are trying to get their Halloween candy, which it's very hard to blame them for, especially since we have stuff outside of our house that indicates that they can come here for Halloween candy.
That's right.
So if you hear a doorbell, it is their fault. Blame them, not us.
Mm-hmm.
The current character challenge is Arkham Killer Croc. That is a 1 week repeat. The required characters for that are Harley Quinn, Flash, and Sinestro, who you can all get as low as bronze tier directly in the store. His passive is Apex Predator, which is when Killer Croc gains armor when he tags in or does a special attack, and Arkham character special attack use also give Killer Croc armor. He's got 1,240 attack, 1,360 health. He was last available just a little more than a year ago, actually, on October 19th, 2023.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting, is that a grammatical error?
That the use also give him armor?
Yeah, because its use should be singular, right?
Yeah.
And give should be the singular version of the...
Mm-hmm.
Of the verb. Anyways.
Yeah, well, we understand what it means.
So he is a spectacular tank. And we've demonstrated him a number of times before on different teams. Playlist in the description. And you can see in lots of videos in that playlist where we talk about all the reasons why he is so great on an Arkham team. He is, like I said, he's a spectacular tank. You get armor from tagging in, from teammate specials, and from his own specials. And when we talk about it, I think this is one of the reasons why Tanty Totem is such a game changer, because it's not just for the characters doing specials, but also from teammates who benefit from somebody else on their team doing specials.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is a little differently, because this is his challenge week. Instead of demonstrating it on a good team where he is the most effective, where you get the most benefit out of his abilities, we're trying to demonstrate him as a specialist. And we've done this before, the last time he was a challenge character. And as much as we've played around with optimizing him for his sort of working around his weaknesses, he's just not as great when he's the main guy. He's great as a backup tank. He's not great as a main guy. Mm-hmm. So we started with the usual Arkham Knight Batgirl teammate. And we could do a third Arkham teammate, but in order to sort of maximize his value for tagging out and getting the power, Hawkgirl is the third teammate. But even with Arkham Batgirl, you can see that we aren't getting the chance to take advantage of her passive to rescue Killer Croc as much, because he takes a long time to kill, and because he builds up so much armor.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the problem is he's too good a tank, so that he would often outlast the teammates. And because we've got this kind of team where we don't have three Arkham teammates, if you've got Hawkgirl as your sort of secondary tank, right? Like you want her to be protected and not get knocked out, then you don't have a lot of options for who you're going to tag in when you tag Arkham Killer Croc out,
mm-hmm.
right? Because his special 2 being weak means that there's lots of times where he's not just getting his power back immediately.
Yeah.
So each tag in gives armor that's equivalent of a little less than maybe 10% of his health, and a special 2 gives somewhere around 20-25%. Because he is our specialist, when the special 2 doesn't knock out the opponent, we don't want to leave him in to just eat damage despite being tanked, despite having all that armor. We need to generate more power for special, so we need to tag him out for Tanty Totem Master's Death card to work. Mm-hmm. So when we eventually use Arkham Knight Batgirl before Arkham Killer Croc gets knocked out, there's a chance she gets knocked out before Killer Croc, and then we lose the advantage of her passive, which is the whole reason why we put her there.
Yeah.
So the bigger problem is, really his special 2 is so weak. The amount of damage over time he does is substantial, but it's still only damage over time, so that you're often left facing an opponent that is bleeding out but not knocked out. So Tanty Totem doesn't give you your power back unless you tag out. And there's a really significant refractory period after his special 2 where he's just standing there. He can't block, he can't tag out, and he can't even do a special sometimes. Like there's a pause where you're vulnerable, which is why one of his teammates has to be Hawkgirl to limit the times that he is really just sort of stuck in just eating damage. We tried using Rebirth Raven as an improvement, but because of his standing around after doing special 2, we can't tag her in fast enough to steal the opponent's power. So you end up tagging her in just after the opponent has used the power Killer Croc, which sort of defeats the purpose. So that leaves us with the sort of not ideal, but the most improved kind of teammates to let Killer Croc shine, and that's Red Lantern Hal Jordan, because when he tags in, he always has power, and he can, we give him Claw of Horus for Shattering Gears, and lets us have the third slot on Killer Croc be Quake Engine to boost his weak specials for the damage directly and to increase the amount of damage over time, so he gets more effective. And that's what you're seeing in the second ultimate ladder, which is bonus. Very rarely do we do adjustments in the middle of the fight. So this video part will probably run a little bit longer than the talkie part.
Yeah.
So that's really the reason why, despite being the best way to make him the main damage dealer on team, it is far from the most effective team with him on it. The most effective team with him on it really is an Arkham team where somebody else is a star.
Yeah.
Because he's a super tank, not so great offensively, and I am reminded again of a saying I once heard about playing cards. You can't make a hand out of a foot. He is not going to be your main guy. As a tank on a team with, say, Arkham Knight Catwoman, he is wonderful. He kills time while the opponent bleeds out, but as a main damage dealer, he leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, so there we go. We're about 27 weeks into a new sort of weird pattern, right, where we got some old characters back, and now we're back to sort of what our previous cycle used to be. Right. We're expecting next week to be Killer Frost, but it's more up in the air than it has been in the past.
I'm still hopeful.
Yeah, so there we go. Moving on, this week's multiplayer reward is Blackest Night Flash. His passive is Black Flash, which is when resurrected, Blackest Night Flash returns with 100% health. Basic attacks against the Flash have a 10% chance to miss and leave the attacker open to counterattack. And instead of taking damage, all Blackest Night teammates gain health and power from enemy damage over time. He's got 1500 attack, 1300 health. Was last available on the 28th of March 2024. And based off of the reward cycle for this, we expect next week to be the Iba Stick.
Right. So he's got really high base stats. He's got good, fast, basic attacks like all Flash skins. There are, in the way they list it, there's 3 elements to his passive, each of which would be enough by itself for a gold card. But if you really sort of break it down into the elements of it, there's actually really 6, depending on how you count it. So resurrections. So with the other ways that you normally resurrect, Fourth Row Gear Set gives you 31% health, Necron Scythe gives you 65%, and a Blackest Night Hawk Roll would give Blackest Night Flash 20%. So that's typical. You only get a portion back. So if you use all 3 setups, he could resurrect with full health 3 times. And you compare that with what you would have gotten, you basically get 184% of his full health extra bonus from his passive,
which is great.
Oh yeah. Now the problem is using up 3 gear slots plus a team slot to resurrect so many times. It kind of limits his offensive potential, because how long do you need to leave him in there, and how much health do you need him to have to absorb the damage when he's not doing damage himself? So in some ways, maybe New 52 Wonder Woman, not a Blackest Night teammate, would be an amazing person to give him power and make up for that. So and that's just the one thing though. He's got other passive abilities to make him more dangerous against opponents, right? So when opponents whiff on basic attacks, there's a 10% chance for basic attacks to miss. I mean, in itself, it's nothing new. Gaslight Batman does that.
Yeah. But
his passive is the first one that gives you a relatively large window to counterattack your opponent, which is, to me, a separate ability, right? One is they don't hit you, but the other part is not only do not hit you, they get sort of stuck, they get paused, and they're frozen, so you can do almost whatever you want. The lower percentage of that happening, only 10%, keeps his ability from being too unbalancing in fights. If he had no other abilities and there were maybe a 20% chance instead of 10% chance, that would be a good enough passive, like as in its entirety. And then the last ability of his passive is maybe 3, depending on how you count and break it down, right? So some characters are immune to damage over time. One of the Scorpions is immune only to fire. Arkham Knight Batman can pick a Wayne Tech boost that puts him immune to damage over time. So in a lot of ways, this passive is as good as damage over time immunity. We've established already that other people have that as an ability. But on top of that, you get health gain from damage over time, right? It's not just you don't take it, you're reversing it. So that's still already a step better than all those other ones. And then you also get power gain from damage over time, which is unprecedented.
Yeah.
So he's a great character. It's, on the face of it, a lot of it looks like defensive abilities, but there's an offensive sort of tinge to all of it. Yeah.
So there we go. Moving on to the store, we have the Killer Frost bundle for $24.99 Canadian, all prices in Canadian, because that's the info we have access to.
Because that's the only currency that matters.
Yep. It's a corroborating clue to what next week should be. It comes with 100,000 power credits. It does not unlock in your store, so I would consider it not worth buying.
Yeah, and the guesses we're making now are based on the order of the old challenge cycle, because what happened this season was that they sort of alternated the missing ones with the old ones.
And now they're no longer alternating.
They're no longer alternating. Yep. So that's why we were able to predict with some sort of confidence. And we're getting to the point where if they wanted to start alternating again, we're about 3 months away from when they have to start putting back the old challenge characters.
Next up, we have the Justice League pack for $24.99 Canadian. That comes with Superman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman Regime, who are available in the store as a challenge and in the store respectively. So only Aquaman is a challenge character. Again, not a great deal. That's the only thing that's new. The character bundle Suicide Squad is in for its second week, and everything else has been in there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Phantom Zone has one more week left. Fight 62 is still broken. We've got double XP for this weekend. Probably for Halloween?
Maybe. I don't know if there's any other holidays. I mean, I'm not so up on American holidays.
Seems like Halloween.
Yeah.
Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Zatanna, Flash, and Solomon Grundy. This coming weekend should be Raven, Superman, and the Arkham Knight. There's a link in the description to a thread from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle if you want to check that out for yourself.
Okay. So as far as current glitches go, we go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. But even if nothing changes, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was a recap from October 2nd, 2024.
And it'll be next week's as well.
Yeah, it will be, because this is the last day of October.
Yeah.
So you can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video and the eye in the top right corner. The main thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's Arkham Killer Croc challenge. And I do want to point out, I think it's not that obvious, because it seems like this is the last sort of kind of question that people need support on. When the key that people need practice to get right is the timing of when to disconnect from the internet.
Yeah.
If you disconnect too early, you don't get the cloud. If you disconnect too late, you get the cloud, but all the progress is still there. So you got to find that sweet spot. So the key really is, if the progress is still there, everything worked except the progress is there, disconnect earlier. If you're doing it and the cloud doesn't show up, disconnect later.
So that's sort of our sneak preview of what it looks like when we talk more about it at the start of every month. Yeah, to finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our lovely patrons on Patreon. That's Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek supporting us on the credited level.
And so we're going to let you watch the last few minutes of the second Ultimate. And I do want to point out that even though the team with Red Lantern Hal Jordan is taking longer in their Ultimate ladder, that's more a circumstance of the opponents and the gears that the opponents had that the matchmaking picked for us. Because I feel like that the second team, there was less danger of losing the fight. Even though it might have taken a little bit longer, it was just more slow and steady and just an assured kind of battle.
So there you go. That's all you'll be hearing from us, but you can feel free to watch that if you want to. In the meantime, we'll say thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.